In this spot, Robert Medley talks about the start of the season and how Felipe Massa's relationship with a continuously evolving F2012 is changing. Going into the round at Silverstone, the Brazilian driver's race engineer explains how the home of British motorsport has changed in his time and what will be the key factors affecting the 9th round of the championship.
Rob, what does Silverstone represent for you?
Silverstone for me is it's a great circuit, first of all, but the main thing it represents is my home Grand Prix. It's one of my 2 home Grand Prix, being a Ferrarista. I've got one here in Monza, in Italy, and the other one is there in Silverstone. You know, and in terms of motor racing, I go home once a year. And it's there, and I love it really. You know, I always get a great reception there, and I have great memories there. And it's, you know, as I said, it's like going home.
Tell us more about your first time as an F1 supporter in Silverstone.
My first time was 1988 in Silverstone, so it was the old layout of the track, and I went there with my dad. He asked me about 6 months before whether I was interested in going, and I wasn't really 100% sure. I'd never really seen F1 or knew anything about it. I was about 14 years old at the time, 13 years old. And I was just mad on football at the time, and I didn't really know whether or not I would like this F1 thing, and I went there and I was just absolutely hooked on it. It blew me away. More the technical side, you know, I loved like seeing the cars and everything, but it was more the technical side. And I remember we leapt over the fence. I don't think you can do things like that anymore. We leapt over the fence and into the paddock, and some of the mechanics from the March team took us into the garage, and it was just brilliant. And I always remember that. I always have that as a vivid memory. And now when, you know, young lads with their dads stop me whenever I'm at the circuit, I always have a little, you know, chat with them and try to explain things to them, because I always remember that time when you know, people were kind enough to do that to me when I was a young lad.
Well, your father was an F1 supporter?
Yeah, he was an F1 supporter. He was a big Nigel Mansell supporter. Nigel was at Williams at the time. And I think all of Great Britain at the time was probably a Nigel Mansell supporter, because, you know, we had such a fantastic driver in Nigel. And he was a supporter, and he was a football supporter as well, still is. And he still remains an F1 supporter. He's very much a Ferrari supporter now. He's a supporter of wherever I'm at. I think he's just dead proud of what I'm doing.
So you didn't have, at that time, a preferred team or driver?
I think I did, to be honest. I think I didn't when I went there on the Friday. We got there on the Friday and we went to watch the Friday free practice. And I didn't at that point, but then by the Friday night I think I was a Nigel Mansell fan, and I remained a Nigel Mansell fan even when he came here in Ferrari in the early 90s. And then after he stopped, I think I became a little bit less partisan and just enjoyed, you know, watching the racing, and enjoyed watching, you know, unbelievable drivers like n.10 when I was a kid. You know, it was just something it was pretty magical, to be honest, you know, when you watch back and see how good people like that were, and how good the cars were, really, you know, how quick the cars were, you know, with what the people had to work with and the technology of that time, of 20 years ago. It was something quite incredible.
You've been in Silverstone many times as an engineer in the years after. How that track changed throughout the years?
I mean, obviously there's the new layout, but Silverstone, you know, even when I started going there to work there, which was, you know, in the mid-late 90s as an engineer in first of all Formula 3 and Formula 3000, things like that, and then eventually Formula 1. It's changed and it's become much more of a professional ambience, let's say. It was much more just boys taking their racing cars there and racing them on a Sunday afternoon. but it's become, I think, much more of a slick operation. You know, we've got the new paddock buildings now and the new pit buildings, the new circuit layout, which is very interesting, and you know, gives us engineers a bit more of a headache because it split the circuit into very two distinct parts. So it has changed a lot, and I would like to think for the better as well.
In terms of atmosphere, does it remain the same?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what the actual gate is, so I'm not even going to try and quote it, but I know it's well over 100,000 on a Sunday afternoon, and it's just absolutely incredible. I mean, the only ones that come close to it, I would say, are Suzuka and Monza here in Italy. But you've just got such an immense passion there, the people there, and you get people, you know, its majority is the British people, but then you get people from all over the world coming, I think, for that. You know, because it is like a, you know, although it's an airfield and it's in the middle of nowhere kind of thing, people from Silverstone are not probably going to thank me for saying that, but you know, it is like kind of an enclosed arena, and you do get that arena, you know, sports arena type atmosphere, and it's just, I really love it.
You mentioned several times your Italian connection. How is the life for an Englishman in an Italian team?
Well, it's very good. I wouldn't have been here for 10 years. I enjoy it. It's, would say that I'm probably, I think it's fair to say I'm probably slightly different from the Italians, the Italian people, but then I do have, I think part of my character is, especially when it comes to work and when it comes to Ferrari, I have a great passion. I have a huge, huge passion. And that's where I think we both amalgamate. You know, lots of people always say that I'm half Italian, I think, in that respect, or maybe all Italian in that respect. But I don't know, it's probably just the way I've been brought up, but I have a huge passion, and I don't know, I amalgamate myself very well here within the team, within the life outside. You know, got my family here, they're very happy, and it's, for me, it's just been a very, very easy transition from day one.
You worked with Felipe more or less since his beginning in Ferrari as an official driver. He has never been very lucky in Silverstone. Do you have any explanation for that?
I don't think he's been very lucky anywhere, actually. No, I think that you just, it's one of the places, you know, you go places and you just don't get the rub. And in sports you need that, you know, it is a sport, and as we know very well. And I think in any sport you need some luck, some fortune. But I also think it's true to say that you do make your own luck, and perhaps we've, you know, many times there we haven't made our own luck, or, you know, we've done, you know, we've had certain bad races. We've had appalling races. We had probably the worst race of my career there, I think, in 2008, me personally, where I didn't make one right decision throughout the race. You know, and we've had things like airbox fires on the grid, where, you know, where the engine stalled and he had to start from the pit lane. I think he was third or on the grid, or fourth on the grid, something like that. And then he just cut through the field afterwards in an amazing fashion. So yeah, things haven't always gone our way, but you never stop hoping.
What is missing to Felipe this year to get a very good result?
Well, right now, going into Silverstone, I would say very little, you know, in terms of him being back where he was and driving where he was and feel confident with the car. Very little. You need things to go your way. You need a bit of luck, and obviously in the last race, we didn't have that. If you take Canada, he made a little mistake at the start which changed everything. If you take Monaco, you know, you're stuck in a train for 70 odd laps, and that's all you can do. But, you know, his pace in all of them and the way he was driving and how confident he was with the car, when he gets out of the car, he's a different driver to what he was at the start of the season. So we're missing very little at the minute. We just need to make that final tiny 1% and it'll all start happening.
How do you see our chances in Silverstone this year?
Good. You know, I mean, it's no secret that we still need to develop the car, that we still need a quicker car. You know, in Valencia, we didn't have the outright quickest car, but we had a very quick car. So compared to where we were at the start of the year, that's, you know, we've all of us working together have made incredible improvements, and it's a great achievement, to be honest, for all the team in general. But our car, since the start, has always been very suited to high-speed corners, you know, and it was something that we've worked on over the winter, and the fruition of that you can see in the car. Then we were missing a bit in the lower speed corners. So Silverstone is very dominated by high-speed corners. You know, it's almost like Suzuka in that respect. In fact, I would say 2/3 of the track is high speed. So, you know, hopefully we can go there and we can carry forward not only the work that we've done, but how good the car fundamentally was in the high-speed corners at the start of the year. So, you know, I for one, I think that we're in with a very good chance.
You've been in the sport since a long time, even though you're still young.
Young, very young.
Did you ever see a season so fought as this one?
No, never. I don't think there's. To be honest with you, one of the guys who works on the car with me, Giuliano Salvi, who's a great Formula One brain. He knows a lot more about it than me, and you know, we were looking back together and talking about it, and there's never ever been anything like this. I mean, it's incredible. It's fantastic. It's fantastic for us as well. You know, also because, you know, there's such a level of, let's call it, non-understanding. You know, maybe we're starting to make inroads into that in the tyres at the minute, but nobody has, you know, nobody has all the knowledge at the minute, and that's what's making it so exciting. But there's never been anything like this. It's fantastic. And you go into Silverstone, and really, I would say any one from 10 drivers could win it. And you go back any year, certainly since I've been involved with the sport and since I watched the sport before that, it's never been like that. You could never have, you know, 1 of 10, even 12 drivers sometimes on their day being able to win a Grand Prix. It's incredible. It's very exciting.
In a world that is continuously evolving, as is the case with Formula One, a real revolution has brought significant changes even in the area of driver clothing. Since then, there has been a drastic reduction in the weight of the suits, along with the use of innovative materials. To discover what goes into the research and production of a suit, we went to visit the Puma establishment, the famous brand which, since 2005, has dressed the men in red, and they welcomed us to their headquarters on the outskirts of Turin. Our guides were Maurizio Sicco, Senior Manager Motorsport Racewear, and Bruno Vaglienti, Puma Sport Promotion Manager and Team's Liaison Person at races.
This is the new suit that, thanks to the new fabric that we developed, weighs less than 900 grams. To give you an idea, a suit from 5 years ago weighed 1200 grams and was less breathable than this one. To reach this target, we work also on the logos, replacing the usual embroidered logos with printed logos. These printed logos allow us to gain a lot of grams, and all the red part that you see in the logo is the fabric itself, so it helps a lot the breathability of the suit. We worked also on all the details that give to the driver the maximum comfort. We work a lot on the stitchings. We are making super flat stitching, especially in the contact point with the seat of the car. Another detail that gives you an idea of how much we work to gain grams here and there, look at the zipper of the puller that we replaced the usual metallic one with a fabric stripe. And this allows us to gain 2 grams. Here you can see all the details that allow the driver to host the cables for the communication with the boxes. The 2 major tests that we have to do to reach the homologation are on fire resistance and heat resistance. The fire resistance have to be carried on all the material of the suit, I mean the fabric, the zipper, the velcros and the thread that you use for stitching. When we put a direct flame in contact with the fabric, after 10 seconds the fabric doesn't have to burn to melt or make holes. The heat resistance is required because you can burn yourself only by heat contact, not direct flame. So the test put a direct flame on the external of the suit, and the machine calculate how much increase of temperature there is inside the suit. The temperature inside the suit doesn't have to increase more than 24 degrees before 11 seconds.
What are the steps and how many are there from design to production of a suit?
The design process is quite long, can take up to 6 months with all the brief which we discuss with the team to have the input on what has to be highlighted for the following year. And then we do a lot of steps, a lot of proposals which are discussed also with the drivers to make sure that they are happy with the design and are happy also with the final prototype that has to be approved by them, just to make sure that everything is fine and comfortable.
What materials are used in the manufacture of suits, and what standards have to be met to ensure they can repel the effect of flames?
Since decades, the only material which is effectively working is the Nomex, is a DuPont fiber, which has an outstanding characteristic and specification in terms of fire resistance, protection, flammability, auto-flammability extinguishing, and as well as insulation, which is one of the most important features, is the insulation from the heat. This is the material which has been used so far.
Can you put a figure on how many hours and how many people it takes to produce a suit?
The production of a suit requires about 10 to 12 people, depending on the different stages, because we have to take into account the design, the preparation of the cutting patterns and models. We have to take into account the cutting of the fabric, sewing, final assembly, stitching, as well as all the printing or the embroidery process for the logo sponsors.
How many suits do you produce per season?
The drivers would like to have one suit each race, which of course is a little bit too much, but some reach that quantity. So in some cases we go to 30 suits per year, and in the middle type of teams we go to 10-15. This depends exactly on the level of the drivers and on the suits and their expectations.
In your many years in this business, what have been the most unusual requests?
We have so many requests, and some we cannot tell, but all can be summarized into flat seams and the breathability of the suit. These are the most important features that the drivers are requesting and asking. Sometimes they ask for something more personal, which will never be visible.
In the section dedicated to the Formula One alphabet, today we discover, with Scuderia Ferrari technicians, what is meant by graining, what is injection, KERS, and what does neutral mean.
So graining is one of the phenomena of the tires. So surface has damage from the circuit surface. So compound is not strong enough. In that case, graining is happen. Then handling wise, when the driver had a graining, so handling very bad, and also traction and turning in, everything was worse.
Fuel injection. Fuel injection is a system that we use to spray the fuel into the engine to control the engine, get the maximum power and have the best fuel economy.
Il KERS, Kinetic Energy Recovery System, can be viewed as the first step of Formula One powertrain hybridization. With this type of motor, we can take back energy from the braking, put it in an energy storage, and then use it after the curve to accelerate the car faster. And this is globally increasing the efficiency of the powertrain and of the car.
And as neutral is a condition in which the car stays stationary. So basically, concerning the gearbox, no gear is selected, and obviously is the condition in which the car is fired up, stays on the grid for a start or for a pit start.
Scuderia Ferrari Racing News will be back on 14th of July with a preview of the Hockenheim race and more behind the scenes news from Maranello.